program.
Good evening, pastors. How you doing tonight?
Good.
A
Thank you
little
for
bit
calling.
cooler in this. Yes, thank you. A little bit cooler in the studio this week. It was hot in there last week.
It's a little cooler. I don't think they fixed the air conditioner yet.
Oh, well. Anyway, my question is on Luke 17 verses 34 to 37. That same type of message is in Matthew as well,
Right.
as you probably are aware of 24, somewhere's around there.
Yeah.
But it's always confusing about who is taken and who is left, especially the part that says, "Where, Lord?" And he says, "Where the body is, there the eagles will be gathered together." It looks like he's saying that those taken are taken in destruction and what's left of the Christians. But I read something recently, and I'll see how you feel about this, where it said the eagles might be symbolic of God's people, and that where the body is, I don't know what that refers to, maybe Jesus, there are the eagles. So how do you interpret that with that "where, Lord" question, which is only in Luke, it's not in Matthew?
Right.
Okay?
And of course, very quickly in Luke, when it says you've got three examples, Matthew has two examples. Luke says, two men in one bed, one is taken, the other left. Two men working in the field, one is taken, one is left. And two women grinding at the mill, one is taken, one is left. That represents two kinds of people are asleep. They're in a bed. You got the dead in Christ are sleeping. It says they will awake, one to life, one to death. Two kinds. You get the resurrection of the just and the unjust. Two women. Revelation says there's two women, the true church, false church. One is, they're both grinding grain. They're working with the word. One is true, one is false. And then you've got two men working in the field. Jesus says the field is the world. They're out sowing and harvesting the seed. You get the true and the false missionary messages. So those are very broad symbols that Jesus is using. And they said, one is taken, and the disciples say, where? As like, where are they taken? Now, in the Jewish mind, whenever the children of Israel disobeyed, they were conquered and carried away. They were taken. Nebuchadnezzar came and took them away off to Babylon. And when the children of Israel were good, they got to remain in the land, and they were blessed. The Bible tells us about Noah and his family. They were saved, but the wicked, the flood came and took them away. They were taken away in judgment. So, it is a difficult verse, and I've heard good arguments on the other side, but I'm of the inclination that it's saying that the ones who survive are the ones who are left, not the ones who are taken.
And then when the verse there where you're talking about where the body is, I think there's a reference to that you find in Revelation chapter 19, verse 10, where it says, "And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to the birds of the heavens, come gather together to the supper of the great God, that you might eat the flesh of kings and the flesh of captains." And it goes on to talk about the destruction that occurs of the wicked. And symbolically, it's described as these birds, these vultures gathering together. It comes from the idea of ancient war, where an army that was conquered, their dead were often left on the battlefield and became food for the wild beasts and the birds.
That's exactly what Goliath threatened David with.
Right.
He said, I'm going to kill you and feed you to the beasts. And so that would pretty well answer the question, George, about someone who said the eagles really are a symbol of Christianity or something. And it's a symbol of judgment. They were unclean birds in the Bible. But thank you. Appreciate your question.